Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of First Impressions on the Scratch the Track podcast presented by the Dude and Groom Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim, and we are going to talk about the newly released Butterfly 3001 by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. A remix album of Butterfly 3000, go figure, released last year by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
I mean, who saw that coming? I mean, if they do a second remix album, obviously it will be 3002.
You would think. Now, dude.
Which I will say, they could, with as many songs as that are on this, they could have actually made two like a double remix album. That would have been
well, it is a double vinyl, and being that this is my lovely wife's favorite album by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, we listened to a lot of Butterfly 3000, probably more than even I would have put on. And so when it was rumored that Butterfly 3001 was coming out, they released, of course, a subset of tracks early. One of them being the first track, which is Black Hot Soup, the DJ Shadow one, dude. And I heard that and I was like, okay, just like a friend of the show and co-producer Mr. IVEST said in our little chat, he's usually not a remix album person, and I guess I'm not either. I remember buying Guerrillito, the companion to Guero, when it came out, and that was interesting. But Guero to me was so full, and it was harder to see what a remix would be like. Interesting nonetheless, but see, I don't know, this album was different. It was so similar in all the tracks where I was like, I think a remix album of Butterfly 3000 would be really interesting because there's just so many places you can take it and it's going to be so obvious.
Right. Well, and you're right when you say Butterfly 3000 it just has a very similar feel throughout kind of the whole album. And that's why when we did our first impressions of it last year, that's one of the things I really liked about it was I just felt like I was like, wow, okay, because I love King Gizzard and I'm like, but I can't.
Sometimes it's got to be real focused.
Because it's like an experience to put it on. But I was like, wow, this, and I hate to equate it to background music, but it was just, it's kind of nice just to like have on, right?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty cool. I mean, it's like going to a massage parlor without the happy ending.
Yeah, and a lot of real ding ding kind of sounds. I don't know, dude. I guess I went into this with a pretty open mind because, for reasons I just said. And listening to it, of course, listening to the first track, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Okay.
And then it actually goes into Shanghai, which I think is number 2 on the album. And I like how this version's kind of a dub version. I thought that was cool how they did that.
The Scientist dub.
Yeah.
Well, then you have like kind of 2 back-to-back Shanghais, and they kind of do that throughout.
Yeah,
the
dude,
album.
Blue Morpho is on there 4 times.
4 times in a row. I mean, it's amazing.
And they do some trippy stuff with it, I have to say.
Well, and so here's the thing, man. Overall, again, like IVEST, I am not a huge fan of remix albums. Just not my thing. I appreciate
other than the Gray album.
Other than the Graham. Here's the thing, though. I consider that more of a mashup.
Yeah, that's true. So, that's a good point because this is not necessarily a mashup, I guess. That's all right. Yeah. Point taken. Sorry.
So, there are exceptions here and there. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of remix albums. But what I do appreciate is that, these artists who take these songs and remix them and kind of, sort of make them their own. I do appreciate the artistic side of it.
Yeah.
It's just not something I find myself gravitating towards where I'm like, oh man, I really want to put on the remix version. A lot of times I'll start listening to a remix and I'm like, man, I want to listen to like the album version that I know. And that's just typically how I gravitate towards my music selections.
in most cases. But again, because this album in and of itself from the get-go is just a little different. I guess I just felt like I'm just going to see where it goes. And so being that there was so much anticipation in my house for this album, we did order the double vinyl with like the clear vinyl and the splatter. I don't have it to show for you, although I did get a notification that it had shipped. But see, that's something that I could see, like, dude, you just put on when you have people over because it kind of changes up enough. It's interesting. You know what I mean? It's
yeah, no, I hear you.
It's kind of approachable where I think normally, you know, if you were with a group of people, depending on how they were, you wouldn't be like, dude, wait till you hear about this band. You know, like not everyone's ready for that. No,
it's like, hey, I'm going to put on the Mars Volta. You ever heard of them? Like, no.
Exactly.
It's not real dinner party music. But yeah, I mean, you know, I listened to it a few times through and I enjoyed it. You know, obviously one of the songs that kind of, you know, I checked out or paid attention to a few times was You Love by the Flaming Lips. Just because I'm a huge Flaming Lips fan. And dude, it was interesting when I listened to it. I was like, man, I feel like this kind of felt like it could have been on Yoshimi.
I know. Like, I was thinking that it was when I listened to that one, and then the first time I didn't look at who did what. You know what I mean? That I listened to it. But I thought that was an interesting version of it. And I like how you could hear acoustic guitar in there. And there was just some elements that I think that were probably in the original, but, you know, just weren't as prevalent in the mix. Yeah, it was just mixed wrong.
Yeah.
And
it was just mixed wrong.
Yeah. So I thought this version was interesting for that.
Definitely. Well, I think another cool thing about it is, again, like we were talking, there's like 4 versions of Blue Morpho. There's 3 You Loves. I mean, they have multiple versions. And what the cool thing about it is you get different artists' perspective and takes and you know, comparing those versions and you know how they're going to do things differently. And it kind of reminded me, and we didn't do an episode on this album, but last year Metallica came out with that album, the Blacklist.
Oh yeah, all the covers, right?
All these, I mean, there was like, you know, I think 50 or so tracks on it, but you know, some people covered, I think, like Enter Sandman like 4 or 5 times, and everybody has like this kind of different version and perspective. So it is kind of cool to see what other people do with kind of the same working materials and content.
I agree.
From that perspective, I really appreciated it.
I have to correct us before we get corrected elsewhere. So if you caught this might be a good time to just go ahead and
subscribe and comment.
But there's actually 5 versions of Blue Morpho because the number 18 is also a Blue Morpho remix. Now I get that was that track really grabbed people, you know?
It did. Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And for some reason they're like, hey, we're going to put 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And then we're going to save another one to the end.
I don't know if this is a really interesting title for one. 2.02 Killer Year Boulant's Fuck Mike Love remix. Now, Mike Love is one of the Beach Boys. I want to listen back to that with, you know, knowing that this remix is pretty much expressing his disdain for Mike Love.
Yeah, exactly.
But he did sound like kind of a wiener. We did bring this up. If you want to go back to our Pet Sounds episode, we did kind of bring up that Mike Love was kind of a stick in the mud.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Mike.
You know, it's just, you know, of course, someone's going to be pissed that they weren't the musical genius that was Brian Wilson. But
yeah, I mean, I would be too.
And you're his cousin.
Oh, man, dude. And the hits just keep on coming.
I know.
Well, Graham, I think that kind of wraps up my overall impression. I don't know if you have anything more that you would like to add.
I really don't, but I'm sure that I will be listening to a lot of this, and maybe when we do a vinyl talk episode in the near future, if we do, I don't know, but you might see what this looks like. And if you're a big fan, I will say, order it from Gizverse real soon, because they pressed, I believe, I don't know if it was 3,001 total copies or of each type of vinyl, because they had like 3 different types of vinyl you could get it in.
All right.
So
good to know.
Order today.
Exactly. All right. Well, that about wraps it up. Everyone, if you're a King Gizzard fan and you like that, we have plenty of episodes on them. So go ahead and check them out. We got Nonagon Infinity, a full scratch of that. We got Polygon Dwanaland. And we'll be doing probably another first impression of Made in Timeland, which apparently is coming out soon.
Yeah,
so
and tell us what you think of Butterfly 3001.
Exactly. Time to go.
The Dude and Grim Show.
The Dude and Grim Show.
Scratch the Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE. And the Tims. TIMNZ. Copyright 2020 to The Dude and Grim Show.